In the quiet stillness before dawn, when the world is silent and untouched by noise, a single question rises, soft but powerful. What kind of life do I want to live? It sounds simple, but in that moment it cuts deep. It asks us to face the truth, the routines we've fallen into, the dreams we've put off, and the quiet dissatisfaction we've tried to ignore. This is where transformation begins. Not with noise, not with applause, but with a decision made in silence. A decision to become someone better, someone stronger, someone who no longer accepts a life of drifting and delay. The Stoics knew that this was where all greatness starts, not in the spotlight, but in solitude. Epictetus wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." These words are not just advice, they are a challenge, a personal contract, one that calls us to live each day with courage, discipline, wisdom, and integrity, no matter the noise outside, no matter the pressure. This isn't about chasing perfection, it's about committing to growth. And if you're ready, if something in you is tired of standing still, then let this be the moment you begin again. In this video, we'll explore how you can change your life in 2025 using Stoic philosophy, not through dramatic resolutions, but through quiet, daily choices that realign your life with who you were meant to become. So where do we begin? After that moment of quiet reflection, after that question stirs something deep within us, what comes next? According to the Stoics, the first step isn't about changing your surroundings or setting grand goals. It's about defining who you want to be, not someday, but now. Not in vague ideas, but in clear, deliberate intention. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do, Epictetus advised. With that one line, he handed us the map. It's a call to create a life built from the inside out, to stop waiting for things to happen, and instead shape ourselves into someone capable of facing whatever comes. Because that's what Stoicism really is. Not passive acceptance of life's chaos, but an unwavering commitment to live by principle, no matter how turbulent the world becomes. And what principles do we stand on? The Stoics pointed to 4 unshakable virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These weren't abstract ideas for them, they were daily practices. Wisdom guides us to act with clarity, not impulse. Courage teaches us to stand firm in the face of fear. Justice demands we treat others fairly, with respect and compassion. And temperance reminds us to stay grounded, not swayed by excess or temptation. These virtues act like anchors in a restless sea. They don't promise a life without hardship, but they do offer something stronger: the power to rise above the noise, to make decisions rooted in character rather than circumstance. This is where real identity is formed, not in the easy moments, but in the difficult ones, when life tests us and we respond not with panic, but with purpose. And from that inner alignment, everything begins to shift. Because when we live with virtue, we no longer chase fulfillment, we embody it. That's the Stoic way, and it's this foundation that will carry us into the next step. How to move from intention into bold, decisive action. Now that we've defined who we want to become, the question becomes, what's stopping us? Why do we so often hesitate, wait for the right time, or stall in fear of the unknown? The Stoics had a clear answer: delay is the enemy of transformation. It's not lack of potential that holds us back. It's the belief that we need to wait for perfect conditions before we begin. But the truth is, there is no perfect moment. There is only now. The Stoics were relentless in their view of time. They understood its fleeting nature, how it slips away while we convince ourselves we'll start tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius warned, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. It's not morbid, it's urgent. The time to act is not someday, it's this very breath. The modern world tells us to prepare more, plan more, seek more validation. But Stoicism strips that illusion away. It asks, are you using your time well? Or are you waiting for the world to hand you clarity? You see, clarity doesn't come from waiting, it comes from action. Confidence doesn't arise out of thin air. It is built, choice by choice, in real time. The Stoics would say, don't look out the window hoping someone will arrive with your future in their hands. Look in the mirror. That's the only person who can save you, the only person who can take the first step. Because you already have everything you need, the strength, the awareness, the capacity to rise. It's not out there waiting to be found. It's within, waiting to be used. And so we move forward not in search of better conditions, but in bold acceptance of the present. The moment you're in right now is the only moment that truly belongs to you. The question is, will you use it? Because if you do, you begin to understand the true Stoic principle. We don't control the cards we're dealt, but we can play any hand well. From here, we shift our focus from time to perception, from the clock to the lens through which we see the world. As we step into action, another challenge quietly arises: how we perceive the world around us. Because no matter how much discipline we try to build, if our perspective remains reactive, fragile, or distorted, we end up walking in circles. The Stoics knew this. They taught that events themselves are not good or bad. They simply are. It's our interpretation, our opinion, that turns them into suffering or strength. Epictetus made this clear. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In other words, you are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You are only at the mercy of your own thoughts. And if you can learn to master your inner world, the outer world loses its power over you. This is where true freedom begins. Not in controlling life, but in controlling how you meet it. The Stoics would walk through storms with steady minds because they understood that pain, failure, chaos, these were not enemies. They were materials, raw inputs. What mattered was how they chose to respond. Would they let these things break them? Or would they use them to become wiser, stronger, more grounded? When you adopt this mindset, everything shifts. A setback becomes a teacher. A delay becomes a moment of patience. An insult becomes a test of your self-respect. The world no longer tosses you around because you've anchored yourself inside, and when you feel that strength, when you realize you're no longer ruled by every opinion or every twist of fate, you taste something rare: peace. So as you move through each day, ask yourself, are you reacting blindly or responding wisely? Because your power lies in that gap, in the space between what happens and how you interpret it. And with that clarity, we move to a place where these inner choices begin to show up in the physical world, in the body you care for, and the routines you create. With a clearer mind and stronger perception, we now turn to something often overlooked in Stoic practice: the body. Because Stoicism isn't just about thoughts, it's about action. And one of the most powerful actions you can take each day begins the moment you open your eyes. The Stoics understood that the body and mind are not separate. They are connected, constantly influencing one another. A tired body breeds a restless mind. A disciplined body supports a calm spirit. That's why how you begin your day matters. It's not about rigid routines or perfection. It's about intention. It's about honoring your body as the vessel of your purpose. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, would remind himself each morning that he was made to rise and do his work, not to lounge in comfort, but to live with discipline. So ask yourself, how do you greet the day? Do you wake up with purpose, or do you drift into it, letting time slip through your fingers before you've even begun? Something as simple as a walk, a few deep breaths, a moment of stillness before the noise of the world enters. These are not small things. They're foundational. They are your first acts of self-respect. They say, I'm here, I'm ready. I won't waste this day. And when you nourish your body through movement, through mindful eating, through proper rest, you send a message to your mind. I'm in this for the long haul. I care for the tool that carries me forward. That simple act of care builds momentum, and that momentum becomes character. So before we move on to routines and rituals, remember this. The way you treat your body is the way you train your mind. Every stretch, every breath, every decision is a brick laid in the foundation of your future self. If the morning is your starting line, then discipline is the engine that carries you forward. And in the Stoic view, physical discipline isn't about punishment. It's about reverence. It's a daily promise you keep to yourself, a quiet act of devotion to your own well-being. And in that promise lies transformation. So many people see exercise as a burden, something to check off a list or avoid altogether. But to the Stoics, it was more than movement. It was a symbol, a demonstration of control over the self, a way to train not just the body, but the mind. Because every time you choose effort over ease, structure over chaos, you're reminding yourself that you are in command, that your future isn't being left to chance, and it doesn't need to be extreme. What matters is intention. A brisk walk, stretching with awareness, a workout done not out of vanity but out of respect. These small, deliberate acts become sacred when done with presence, when you view them as part of something greater, a life rooted in virtue and clarity. Even your meals, often overlooked or rushed, become part of this devotion. Eating well isn't just about health, it's about gratitude. It's the recognition that your body, your energy, your ability to serve others all depend on how you care for yourself. When you sit down to eat, are you honoring your strength, or are you numbing your discomfort? The Stoics would challenge you to be honest here, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. Your physical habits are reflections of your inner discipline, and every small decision, every rep, every step, every bite, is an opportunity to align yourself with the kind of person you claim you want to become. That's why this path isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, every day, especially when it's hard. Because discipline is not the absence of comfort, it's the presence of purpose. Discipline in the body lays the foundation, but it's in the mind where the real shift begins. Because a strong routine without a strong mindset is like building a house on sand. It looks sturdy, but one storm can sweep it away. That's why the Stoics place so much value on consistency, not just in action, but in thought. They believe that every day offers a chance to reshape your internal world. But it doesn't happen all at once. The mind doesn't transform through inspiration. It transforms through repetition. Through small, intentional practices that reinforce who you're becoming. So ask yourself, how do you speak to yourself throughout the day? Do you build yourself up with clarity and purpose, or tear yourself down with doubt and distraction? The Stoics would remind us that our internal dialogue creates the tone of our entire life. If you fill your thoughts with complaints, worry, and comparison, then that becomes the lens through which you see the world. But if you fill them with purpose, courage, and reflection, everything changes. This is why daily rituals matter, not because the routines themselves are magical, but because they anchor the mind. A short moment of stillness before eating, a journal entry after waking, a few deep breaths between tasks. These small practices remind you of who you are and what you're aiming for. They aren't about escaping the world, they're about entering it with strength. Even the most ordinary tasks can become sacred when done with presence. Folding laundry, cleaning your space, preparing food. Each one is a chance to act with care, to prove to yourself that how you do things matters. The Stoics saw these moments as training, not for perfection, but for peace. Because with each act of mindfulness, you're reinforcing your identity, not as someone who reacts, but as someone who leads. And as that mindset takes root, it becomes harder and harder to return to your old ways. You don't just change what you do, you change who you are becoming. In the pursuit of strength, it's easy to overlook something just as vital: rest. But rest, to the Stoics, was never weakness, it was preparation. Just as the body needs recovery after movement, the mind needs stillness to regain clarity. And in a world that glorifies constant motion, choosing rest becomes a radical act of wisdom. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Much of that suffering comes from a mind that never pauses, always analyzing, always preparing for what might go wrong. That's why rest is more than sleep. It's about quieting the noise. It's about creating space between your thoughts so you can hear your own wisdom more clearly. Ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed your mind to be still without guilt, to sit in silence, not to escape, but to reconnect? These moments of quiet are not empty, they're full of reflection, full of perspective, and in those moments something beautiful happens. The chaos settles, the inner fog lifts, and what's left is truth. A peaceful mind doesn't arise from avoiding life, it comes from facing it, then retreating into calm. The Stoics often spoke of building a mental fortress, a place untouched by the outside world. That fortress is built during rest, during solitude, during those pauses when we finally let go of needing to fix everything and instead just observe. Evening routines matter here, not because they're trendy, but because they tell your mind you're safe to slow down. Whether it's a quiet walk, a warm shower, or simply putting your phone away, these are not luxuries. They are necessities. They're how we heal the wear and tear of daily battles. Because the strongest people aren't the ones who never break. They're the ones who know how to mend, to breathe, to recover, and to return to the world with fresh eyes and a calm heart. As your mind settles and clarity returns, you begin to see how much of life's noise is unnecessary. The Stoics believed that real power lies in simplicity, not in having less just for the sake of it, but in cutting away what distracts from what matters. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, hacks, and constant stimulation, they remind us that slow, steady progress rooted in purpose is what actually leads to transformation. We chase big results, instant change, and overnight success. But the Stoics knew that meaningful growth is quiet. It's found in the unglamorous work, showing up every day, refining your habits, doing what you said you'd do even when motivation fades. Seneca wrote, "Well-being is attained by little and little, and nevertheless is no little thing itself." It's that daily effort, the small correction, the moment of choosing virtue over ease. That's where change lives. And this progress doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be consistent. One decision at a time. One thought aligned with your values. One action that brings you closer to your higher self. You're not building a highlight reel, you're building a life. Simplicity sharpens your focus. It helps you notice where your time is going, where your energy is leaking. And when you begin to strip away the excess, whether it's clutter, distractions, or unhealthy patterns, you create space for something more meaningful to grow. The work becomes clearer, the path becomes quieter, but your direction becomes unmistakable. Because in Stoicism, greatness isn't found in a single moment of brilliance. It's forged in repetition, in choosing to rise again and again, even if no one is watching. It's in those small, quiet victories that you slowly become the person you've been striving to be. And when you stop rushing toward a distant finish line, you realize something powerful. The process is the reward. Once you begin to value the process, another challenge arises, your attention. It's constantly being pulled in two directions, backward into regret or forward into fear. But the Stoics believe that neither the past nor the future can touch you. Only the present moment holds power. And learning to live inside that moment is where peace begins. How often do we replay our mistakes, as if the past can be edited by guilt, or fast forward into anxiety, convinced the future will bring failure before it even arrives? Marcus Aurelius challenged this thinking. Do not let the future trouble you. You will come to it if that is what you must do, with the same reason that you apply now to the present. This is the Stoic answer to both regret and fear. Return to now, because this moment, this breath, is the only place where anything can change. When you anchor yourself in the present, you're no longer dragged by memories or paralyzed by the unknown. You respond instead of react. You move forward instead of looking back. Presence isn't about ignoring the past or avoiding the future. It's about understanding that your strength lives in your attention. What you give energy to becomes your reality. If you invest it in rumination, you create suffering. If you invest it in awareness, you create freedom. Try it. The next time your mind spirals, pause, look around, feel your feet on the floor. Take a slow breath, name what's real. That small practice pulls you out of illusion and back into life. And when you live fully in the present, something incredible happens. Your regrets begin to fade and your fear of the future softens, because you're finally living where life actually is. From here, we explore a deeper Stoic principle, seeing obstacles not as enemies, but as allies on the path to growth. Now that you've anchored yourself in the present, a deeper truth emerges. Life will still challenge you. Pain will still arrive. But here is where the Stoics stood firm. Adversity is not the enemy. It is the forge. It is the teacher. It is the tool. Marcus Aurelius said it simply, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." To the Stoics, obstacles weren't roadblocks. They were part of the path itself. Every hardship, every setback, every disappointment was an opportunity to practice virtue. Not in theory, but in real life, where it counts. Think about that. Every difficulty is a moment to grow stronger, wiser, more grounded. That challenge you didn't expect. A lesson in resilience. The delay that frustrated you. A chance to practice patience. The betrayal that stung. A test of your integrity. The Stoics didn't just survive hard times, they transformed because of them. And modern Stoics continue this mindset. They don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, what can I become because of this? That shift changes everything. Because when you stop seeing adversity as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, even your struggles take on meaning. Every obstacle invites you to respond, not with panic, but with purpose. not with avoidance, but with courage. And slowly, as you meet challenge after challenge with steady resolve, you realize something powerful. The very things that once made you feel small are now the things that shaped your strength. This is how the Stoic walks through life, not hoping for ease, but welcoming the weight, knowing that each burden carried well becomes a stepping stone toward greatness. And as we carry that mindset, we begin to understand another Stoic truth, that peace is not found in the world around us, but in the fortress within. As challenges arise and the world presses in, it's easy to believe that peace must come from fixing everything outside of us. But the Stoics taught the opposite. True tranquility is never found in control over circumstances, it's found in control over ourselves. The world may swirl in chaos, but inside you can remain still. They spoke of building an inner fortress, a citadel of the mind, a place that no insult, no crisis, no setback could breach. Epictetus reminded us, no man is free who is not master of himself. That mastery doesn't mean you're untouched by emotion. It means you're not ruled by it. You observe, you understand. And then you choose how to respond. So when the world demands your reaction, when someone provokes you, when plans fall apart, when fear knocks, you pause, you breathe, you return to the stronghold within. Because that is the gift of Stoicism, the ability to remain grounded even when everything around you feels unstable. But this kind of peace doesn't come automatically. It's trained, just like strength. It's practiced in the quiet moments, in how you handle minor frustrations, in how you speak to yourself when things go wrong. Each of those moments is a brick, building the foundation of your inner stillness. And over time, that calm becomes unshakable. People around you may wonder how you stay so composed. They may not see the discipline behind it, the countless times you chose patience over anger, understanding over blame. But you will know, you'll feel it, and that peace will guide you through the storms that used to throw you off course. Because when you realize that you alone control your inner life, the world loses its grip on you. And in that realization lies true power. Now we begin to understand the next level of Stoic living, not just building peace, but taking full responsibility for the life we're shaping. When you've found that calm center, the fortress within, it naturally leads to one of the most empowering truths in Stoicism. You are responsible for your life, not the world, not your past, not what others say or do. You. At first this might feel heavy, but the Stoics saw it as liberating, because if you hold the power to choose your actions, your reactions, and your path forward, then you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become the author of your life. Epictetus said it clearly, seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves. That means every decision you make is a reflection of your values, every response a vote for the person you're becoming. When something goes wrong, the question isn't who's to blame, it's what can I do with this? That shift in mindset turns struggle into strength and excuses into action. Modern Stoic thinkers echo this relentlessly. While you may not control what happens around you, you always control how you interpret it, how you carry it, and what you do next. That's where your freedom lives, in the small moment-by-moment choices. Will you act with dignity even when no one's watching? Will you rise after failure without bitterness? Will you choose clarity over complaint? Responsibility means no longer waiting for perfect conditions. It means leading yourself, holding yourself accountable, and treating every decision as a step toward your higher self. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Because in owning your choices, you gain access to the most authentic kind of power, the ability to change your life from the inside out. And once you understand that, reflection becomes more than a tool. It becomes your daily compass, a way to stay aligned, a way to stay true. Responsibility gives you control, but reflection gives you direction. The Stoics didn't just live with purpose. They checked in with themselves constantly. Morning and night, they asked the questions that shaped their character. Am I living the way I said I would? Where did I succeed? Where did I fall short? This wasn't self-criticism, it was self-awareness, a way to realign, to stay honest, to stay grounded. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful men, wrote in his journal daily, not to impress others, but to examine himself. And that's the Stoic model, to hold a mirror up to your life, not with shame, but with curiosity. What did you do today that reflected your values? What would you improve tomorrow? What patterns are you repeating, and which habits are shaping your future? This kind of reflection is a quiet discipline. It doesn't demand hours of your time, just a few moments of truth. You can practice it in the shower, on a walk, or before sleep. All it takes is presence, a willingness to ask yourself, am I becoming who I set out to be? And when you do this regularly, something shifts. Your days begin to feel connected, purposeful. You see your growth. You notice the small wins. And even your missteps become valuable, not as failures, but as lessons. Each day becomes a chapter in a story you're consciously writing, each reflection a chance to refine your course. The Stoics knew that greatness doesn't arrive. It's built, slowly, patiently. And reflection is the chisel that shapes the sculpture of your life. With awareness comes perspective, and from perspective, gratitude is born. To the Stoics, gratitude wasn't reserved for moments of fortune or ease. It was a way of life, a mindset, a discipline. Because when you train your mind to see what's present rather than what's missing, life becomes lighter, richer, and more meaningful. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." And this wasn't just philosophy, it was practical resilience. Gratitude grounds you. It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from complaint to contentment. Even in hardship, there is something to be thankful for. The lesson learned, the strength built, the chance to try again. In today's world, where attention is often pulled toward comparison and dissatisfaction, gratitude becomes a shield. It protects your mind from the poison of envy and the illusion that more is always better. The Stoics knew that joy doesn't come from acquiring more, but from appreciating what you already have. So ask yourself, have you acknowledged the gift of this breath? This day? The people in your life who support you, the challenges that shaped you, the quiet moments that brought clarity. These are the foundations of a fulfilled life, not because they're perfect, but because they're real. Make gratitude a practice. Begin your morning with a thank you. End your night with a reflection on what went well. Let it be simple, but consistent. Over time, it rewires your perception. You stop searching endlessly for happiness and start recognizing that it was with you all along. Because gratitude doesn't just change your mood, it changes your mindset. And with that mindset, you're ready to let go of what weighs you down and step forward with clearer eyes and a lighter heart. Gratitude opens the heart, but to truly live freely, we must release what no longer serves us. The Stoics warned us against the corrosive power of envy and resentment. These emotions, they said, don't harm the world, they harm us. They poison our thoughts, cloud our judgment, and weigh down our spirit. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Envy turns your focus outward, making you blind to your own path. Resentment keeps you chained to past pain, replaying wounds that can no longer be changed. And distraction, perhaps the most subtle of them all, pulls you away from the life unfolding right in front of you. The Stoic answer? Let go. Not as an act of weakness, but as a declaration of power. When you stop measuring your life by someone else's timeline, when you stop dragging old grudges into new days, when you stop filling every silence with noise, you begin to feel something rare: clarity. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over punishment. It means freeing your mind to focus on what can be built rather than what's already broken. And it creates space for intention, for presence, for joy. Even material excess, the endless chase for more, can be a kind of distraction. The Stoics valued minimalism not as deprivation, but as liberation. They believed that a person who needs little is the richest of all. When you simplify your life, your environment, your expectations, your attachments, you give your soul room to breathe. So ask yourself, what are you still holding on to that's holding you back? What if you didn't need to win every argument, prove your worth, or keep score? What if your energy could go toward building, healing, and creating instead? In letting go, you don't lose power, you reclaim it. Now comes the part we often avoid: failure. The missed chances, the setbacks, the moments we falter. But to the Stoics, failure was never something to fear. It was something to learn from. A sign that you've stepped outside your comfort zone, that you're testing the edges of what you're capable of. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to begin each day with gratitude for life itself. To think, to love, to strive. And if life is a gift, then so is the process of learning from our mistakes. Failure, in this light, is not an ending but an entry point, a way to discover what needs to be strengthened, refined, and realigned. The Stoic doesn't chase perfection. They show up consistently, reflect honestly, and rise again with purpose. Every obstacle becomes part of the process. Every shortcoming becomes a stepping stone, and over time, these moments of struggle quietly become your foundation. So ask yourself now, who do you choose to be, not someday, but today? Will you live these values when it's difficult, not just when it's easy? Will you carry these principles forward, not just in thought, but in action? Because Stoicism isn't just a philosophy, it's a way of being. It's a way of choosing clarity over chaos, strength over doubt, and purpose over distraction. Everything you need is already within you. The journey isn't about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you were always meant to be. If you found value in this reflection, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to Deep Dive Stoic to stay connected to content that supports thoughtful living. And if you're ready to go deeper, check out one of the recommended videos on screen. We think you'll find it meaningful. Thanks for being here with us.